Everyone, we are starting this class now. Let's start the chatting first. The Shanti part. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti. ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पत आनशृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् ॐ श्रीमहागणपतये नमः सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यां करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर गुरुरेव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. Okay, so we starting this 13th class on Tattwabodha. We have completed the basic part, the first part, where we learned about the adhikari, the person who is fit to enter, and the basic requisite is to have a mind that is ready and focused for this activity. Mind fit for gaining knowledge, mind endowed with shraddha, mind endowed with one pointed focus, and mind endowed with purity. So once that purity is a part of our being, part of our mind, we can absorb the knowledge very easily and also bring it to practice. And the best benefit of having that calm mind is that when we apply that knowledge, it is available to us in times of distress also. Just like in the story of Mahabharata, Karna forgot his knowledge at the right time, and at the time when he needed most. So that represents that when you have some kind of klesha, some kind of defect in your mind, some kind of fault that happened, something wrong you did, it keeps on disturbing. So unless we get over that, we will not have a clear enough mind to absorb that knowledge, right? And then, of course, we went on to the discovery of who am I, which is the main core of the Vedantic inquiry. That involves two parts. First is understanding the individual, which we call the Twampad Vachyartha. So Tattvamasi we'll study later on. So we'll go into that. So that will tell us. But just for a beginner's idea, Tat Tvam Asi is a Mahavakya representing or showcasing the unity of the individual and the total. That unity is represented by discovering the common factor. That is the essence of both. What is the essence of both? Satchit Anand. Existence, consciousness, bliss is the essence of all of these. Every individual as well as Ishvara. So right now, earlier we have seen the individual that we call the Swampad. Now we are looking at Tatpad, which is showing us, which is going to tell us about the total or the cosmos or Brahma. So that Brahm in the manifest form, right? So that is what we are looking at. We have seen so far the initial part where we looked at the Chaturvinshati Tattva Utpatti Prakaram Vakshama was what was said. 24 elements that are going to be said, right? So there we saw, first of all, that Brahman with his power, Maya or Prakriti, creates the universe. So that creation proceeds from the first subtle creation, the subtle, sukshma creation. So we understood earlier also there will be parts of this creation, the subtle creation, the creation of the subtle element, sukshma bhutani, then the sukshma bhautik srishti, the creation of elements, the elements from their subtle parts, whatever is created. Then the stool bhuta srishti, that will come later. That is the creation of the different, what we call gross elements. Then the gross elements will then be converted into stool bhautikani, the stool, the gross bodies, the gross matter that we perceive, anything that we usually perceive in this universe. So we'll just get into the text first. We read the first few parts, but I will just quickly repeat it. अथ चतुर्विंशति तत्उत्पत्ति प्रकारं वक्ष्यामः ब्रह्माश्रया सत्व रजस्तमो गुणात्मिका माया अस्ति तत आकाश संभूतः आकाशाद् वायुः वायोस्तेजः तेजस आपः अद्य पृथिवी. So from one by one, all of these elements, the next one is synthesized. एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां मध्ये आकाशस्य सात्विकांशात् श्रोतीन्द्रियं सम्भूतं वायोः सात्विकांशात् त्वगिन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् अग्नेः सात्विकांशात् चक्षुरिन्द्रियं सम्भूतम् जलस्य सात्विकांशात् रसनेन्द्रिय सम्भूतम् पृथिव्यां सात्विकांशात् घ्राणेन्द्रिय सम्भूतम् एतेषां पञ्चतत्त्वानां समष्टि सात्विकांशात् अंशानां मनो बुद्धि अहंकार चित्त अंतकरणानि सम्भूतानि. So we'll chat the rest later. We'll just look at this so far. So we have looked into the macro nature of the universe. We are now looking at how from this macro universe at the causal state, at the state when everything begins to be formed, that is the Maya or Prakriti, when nothing has so far been manifested. So that is also called Avyakrit, when it is not being manifested. That is another name for this very Prakriti. So this Prakriti, when it starts to, it of course it borrows its essence from Brahman. It is Brahman's Shakti. So those two are inseparable. So when we enter into this Shakti, then we can look at it in the form of a chart. This Brahman, along with his Shakti, he creates the universe. And this universe starts with the Prakriti. It first splits into three. The three gunas, the primary gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. So they are the three initial powers from which everything is going to be created. So sattva, rajas, and tamas, they represent, it's just like when you mix a few things up in a solution, then the lighter part will float to the top, the remaining part will remain in the middle, and the heavier part will sink to the bottom. So sattva represents the lighter part, the knowledge aspect. Rajas represents the activity part, the movement aspect, that's in the middle. And then tamas is the heavy aspect, the inertial aspect, what we call it, the aspect of inertia that goes down to the bottom, right? So from all of these, each of these then acts on the five elements. The five elements we have seen have been created in a sequence. First Akash, then Vayu, then Agni, then Jalam, and then finally Prithvi Tattva. So all these five elements represent the five, you may say, in a way you can represent as the five states of matter. So initially is Akasha, the space, because from it everything is going to be, it is going to be the place where everything is going to be held in, right? So Akash is Avakashat Akasha. That is the definition of Akash, the one that provides a place for everything to exist. Avakasha. It gives Avakash. It gives a space where everything can be, you can placed. So that is Akasha. And then we also saw their respective gunas. So Akasha has its guna Shabda. And then as we go down the line, then Vayu. So this represents the gaseous state. Then Agni, energy state. Jalam, the liquid state, and finally Prithvi, the solid state. So all these represent these states of matter, and we have seen that in modern science also, you can correlate it easily, that the three states of matter represents the first part that we know, energy being the fourth state because matter and energy are interconvertible, and then space represents the place where everything is situated. That space is holding everything, and it also has a mass of its own. In today's world, we will call it dark matter. So from that also, that corollary also, we can derive a lot of scientific, truths that today are eluding a lot of scientists. So जब हम इसको समझते हैं पांचों तत्वों को, इट्स जस्ट ना, ये ऐसा नहीं है कि सिर्फ ये पांच तत्व हैं, लाइक कि इन्हीं से ही सब बना हुआ है, तो यही हमें इतना ही मालूम. इट्स नॉट दैट वी नो दीज फाइव ओनली and there are other elements. All other elements are born from combinations of these, right? So the ones that we know, the 100 plus 118 elements, I think known till now today, all of these 118 elements represent combinations of our basic tattvas, right? And so from here, the creation proceeds to the what we call the different levels. So all of these levels we can go step by step. So let's go into the next step. So we have from space. We saw in the text. I think I'll share the text first. So these three gunas, they act upon all of the five elements, right? They act on all the five elements and they all split them up into three parts. So Sattva will act on Akash and Vayu and so on, all of them, it will split them into three parts. And from all of those three parts, a different entity is born, right? A different sense organ is born, a different power, force is born, and so on. So the first one we are looking at is the Sattvic Ansha. That's from the Sattvic aspect, what we are looking at. So from the Sattvic aspect of space, from out of the Sattvic aspect of Akasha, you can say, then Sattvic Ansha, Shrotindriyam Sambhutam. The hearing power is evolved, right? The hearing power is evolved. And what can the hearing power cognize? What can it know? What can it perceive? इसको जान सकता है because it is Sattvic. So Sattvic is lighter. It represents what we saw as the knowledge aspect, right? Sattvic is the knowledge aspect. So the knowledge aspect is represented by the sense organs because they give us knowledge about all the objects around us. So in any kind of perception, what is the rule in Vedanta? The rule is that for any kind of perception to occur, there must be a common ground. There must be a common source, common thread between any three things where perception is happening. So here, what is the common thing? From Akash, this Shrot Indriya will be born, and from the Tamsik Ansh of Akash again is the sense object. The sound itself is born. So so this Shrot Indriya and this Akash and this sound, they are interrelated in that way because they have all come from Akash only. That is why the Shrot Indriya, born from the Sattvic aspect of Akasha, can perceive the sound. So that is how. And the connecting, what is the connecting part? That is the Devata, we saw earlier, the intelligence behind that. Right? So anyone remember Akasha, who is the Devata of Akash?
Indra.
No, not Indra. Indra is the Devta of the hands. So Akash was Dig Devta, right? So Dig Devta, he is the Devta of the Akash. So here in this section, the Devtas I will explain. The Devtas for the different elements are not being given here because we saw them where in the individual part, right? So in the individual part, the five elements, we saw the different devtas. Here, the other devtas, the remaining devtas will come in. So, from this, why Dig Devta? Dig represent direction. So, we can, when the ears can cognize from which direction the sound is coming. So, for that, the Anugraha, the blessing of the Devta of the directions, the Dig Devta is necessary. That is why there is a logic behind all of these aspects that is described, the Devta and all. Why it is the Dig Devta. So the Dig Devta will combine, it is the conscious aspect, it is the consciousness that will connect these two. Because these are both Jada. Sattvic Ansha, the Akasha, Sattvic Ansha, the Tattva itself is Jadam. The Shrot Indriya is also Jadam because when we don't use it, it's not available. And then, of course, the element itself, not the element, sorry, the what we call the five perceived entities, Shabd, Sparsh, Roop, Rasa, Gandha. So we call them Vishaya in Sanskrit or Hindi. So all the five Vishayas, they can be perceived. So only one sense organ can perceive one sense object, right? So it's not that the nose can suddenly start to see. It is not possible. Otherwise, it will create a lot of havoc, right? So nature has ordered everything very cleanly and very efficiently so that every perception occurs by one of the sense organs, right? So next is the Vayu. Similarly, Vayu, Sattvic Ansha, from the Sattvic aspect of Vayu, Sattvic part of Vayu. Vayu also we are splitting it to three. The other parts will come to later. So Sattvic Ansha of Vayu, you will get this Twat Indriya, that's sense of touch, right? Twacha Indriya. So that Twat Indriya will then be able to let us feel touch of everything. We can cognize different touch aspects, right? So there the Devta is again Vayu only. So that is simpler. So Vayu Devta. And then Agnehe Sattvic Ansha Chakshur Indriya Sambhutam, right? So here the Devta is not Agni, it is what? Surya for Agni. So Surya is the Devta of Agni, of this Chakshu Indriya. Why? Because Agni represents the Surya itself at the individual level. So from the Sattvic part of this Chakshu, of this Agni, this Chakshu Indriya, the seeing power. Seeing power, what is it? What does it do? It cognizes the forms and colors, right? So both are there. First, of course, form will come, then color will come. So these are the guna that it can experience. So all the forms can be seen by this Chakshu Indriya. And then fourth is, of course, Jalasya Sattvic Anshat Rasna Indriya Sambhutam. So from that water, the Sattvic Ansha part, the Rasna Indriya, the sense of taste, right? So Jal is very important when any kind of taste is to be done. Whenever we see something delicious, we start to salivate. हमारे मुंह में पानी आ जाता है. So that represents that. And so that is why also the Devta for that is what? Varuna. He is the Devta of the water. So Varun is the Devta for this Sattvic Ansha of the Rasna Indriya. He is the Devta of the Rasna Indriya. And then Prithivya Sattvic Ansha Gran Indriya Sambhutam. So from the Sattvic Ansha of this Prithvi. So here there are two nostrils. So they are the Ashwini twins. Ashwin Devtas are the Devtas for this. So Prithivya, Sattvic, Anshat. So here remember there is a difference in what way? Here actually what we are talking about uh, is the sense organs, but this is at the cosmic level, right? So this is the cosmic level, the sense organs of the total of Ishvara, or you can say Purushaha. So if we read someday, we were doing in the Nyaya class, but we stopped, I think. So Purush Sukta we were reading, right? We were chanting that. So there, what does Purush Sukta in Purush? There, Purush represents the macro. So this Purusha has Om Sahasra Shisha Purusha Sah Saksha Sahasrapat Sabhumim Vishwato Ritva Atyatishta Dashangulam and so on. So this Purusha represents all the powers that are there in the universe. Thousands of eyes, thousands of hands. What does this? The thousand represents not exactly the number thousand. It represents uncountable, right? So in this way, all the sense organs, all the powers, or everything of the universe is the holder is Purusha, right? So all of these different aspects of the visible universe are held together by that universal being, the cosmic Purusha. So it is his Indriya here. Of course, our Indriyas are also a part of that only. So he is controlling all of our sense organs, but the total, so what is the total Shrot Indriya? That Shrot Indriya, the hearing power of Ishvara or of Purusha. Similarly, this Twagindriya is the Twagindriya of the Purusha, the total Twagindriya, right? So that is why we use the Devta aspect here. Devta represents the total potential, right? And the individual potential is only a very small part of that total potential. And that is why the Devta is functioning through all of our bodies. So in this way, all of these five, they are represented by these five sense organs. They are coming or they are evolving out of the sattvic part of the five elements, right? So in this way, when our sense organs are going to perceive, then what is going to happen? They are going to get some information, right? So when this information has to be processed, then how do you cognize? आप किसी वस्तु को कैसे जानते हो? You do not just cognize just the sight of something. You understand, see, observe. Of course, if all the aspects are not always available for you, but you can make them available. If you go close, you can touch. If you go close, then you can smell. Maybe from far also you can smell if the smell is really bad or really good, right? But if it's a strong smell, you can tell from apart. So all of these information for a particular same object has to be collected together. So then this information has to be totally assessed and assimilated by a common uh, what we call medium or a common instrument, right? What is that common instrument? That is the mind. That is why very interestingly this part we are saying etesham panch tattvanam samashti santvikashat anshat mana buddhi ahankar chitta antakaranani sambhutani. From the combined, all of these five elements combined together to produce the mind. That is why mind is the what we call common instrument, right? So it is the saman karan. All of them are vishesh karan, the special perceivers, and it is the common perceiver. Mind is the common perceiver. So when this mind receives the inputs, it has to be, it has to have come from all the five elements. So all the five elements come together, and from their sattvic ansha, the combined sattvic ansha, the mind is created, right? This mind is then born. So what is this mind? Again, we can, because this mind has different functions, just like I can have different functions, or any person can have a different function. That person can be a boss at his office, that can be a husband or at home, it can be a father also, and also it can be a student when he comes to the class. So, and in this way, we all have different what we call upadhis. We all have different we have different functions by which we get a different name. So that becomes our upadhi. Right? That becomes our nomenclature, our designation. Right? So where I am the chairman, I am the president, that is an upadhi. So this upadhi depends on the entity through which, the relationship through which we are functioning. That relationship is, it defines what our activity should be. Right. So my activity will be different in the office. My activity will be different at home. My activity will be different when I'm having fun outside, and my activity will be different when I'm, say, teaching. So all of these come from the mind. So this mind is split into four different functions. What are these four functions? They represent mana. So actually, the all four are also mana, and but we also separate one part of that, the thought aspect, into mind, mana. So there is the total man and then the combined mana. So to remove that confusion, we give a single common name to all these four, antakarana, the inner instrument. Right, so mind is the inner instrument. It functions inside us. It does not visualize outside. Right, so the mind is going to mind the sense organs. Otherwise, they all have what we call their golaks. They have all their functioning sockets through which they function. So when we are looking at this five uh, elements coming together to produce this mind, then we have man, buddhi, chit, and ahankar. So man, buddhi, chit, ahankar represent these four aspects of the mind, the different functions. So what are these? These, they represent the different functions that they all perform. So if you look at them one by one, so sankalp, vikalp, atmakaha, manah. I described this earlier also, but just for repetition, because this represents the mind at the total level also. Individual, of course, is there. It's not removed here. But when we are talking at the gross creation, the total creation, the mind of Ishvara, the mind that is having the roadmap for all the creative things that is going to be happening. So that creation involves two aspects. First is all the potential, that is the kind of universes that can be manifest. And then out of that, what has to be manifest, that is decided by what we call rhythm, the law of the universe, the rhythm of the universe, right? So each aspect of the universe is governed by a certain law. So that law, for the holder of those laws, is that the holder of any law will be a conscious entity. A conscious entity will command. Conscious entity will put together the rules, and then they will be enforced, right? So when there is a boss in the office, he will put the laws, or whatever the organization is, the organization will make the laws. So this mind at the cosmic level, we call it also Hiranyagarbha. That also we'll see. So this Hiranyagarbha represents the mind at a total level, right? So that Sankalpa, Vikalpa, Atmaka, it has the function of Sankalpa and Vikalpa. What is Sankalpa and Vikalpa? Whenever we think of doing something, whenever there is a vritti, there is thought born in our mind, then first of all, as I gave an example of, I'd like to have a pizza. So then what kind of pizza I would like to have? I will explore the options. There are so many places, from which of them I will choose. So all those will represent the uh, vikalpa, the different options or choices that I have. So the mind represents Sankalp Vikalpatmaka Shakti. So that represents the power of making a wish or a desire, the power of bringing forth a desire. So that again is born out of our previous experiences only. So we saw the cycle. So so before that, there has to be some kind of impression, samskara, from which this sudden desire is born, and that will also be initiated by some kind of experience in the future, experience later on, where we can, uh, there is some object that will remind us of the experience that we have to go through, right? So that whatever be the sanskara in our mind, that will there will be some kind of contact with some kind of sense objects, and from there is born our what we call pravritti, the nature of our aspiring for action. From that pravritti will come what we call the sankalpa. Sankalpa, where we decide to do a thing or we think that I want to do something or a desire. And then from that we get the different vikalpas, the different choices, and then we finally come to a decision. And then further on we do the action which is called the karma. That karma will produce some kind of fruit which we call karma phala. Then we enjoy that, we call bhoga. Then bhoga, that bhoga produces a sanskara or an impression. The stronger impressions, the ones that have more tendency towards or against, they will represent the vasanas. And then finally, again, whenever there is a samparka with, there is a contact with that same similar sense object or something that reminds me of that sense object, then a thought will be born within me, which will prompt a desire, ichha. From that ichha will come the sankalpa. So this cycle will go on and on. So this will discuss when we do karma theory in more detail. But the gist of this is that all of the choices are born in the mind, and then finally we have to come to make a decision. So what is that decision making faculty? That is the buddhi. So that is the nishchayatmika buddhi. This is the next aspect where we make a decision. So buddhi is the one that controls our desires. That leads us to finally making a decision on a desire. Okay, this is the one I want to indulge in, right? So I want a pizza from Domino's or whatever be your favorite place. So that is my final decision. So that nishchayatmika buddhi, that buddhi will make that decision. So we saw earlier these two parts only, because earlier we saw 17 components of Sukshma Sharir, right? But we can divide into two more based on function. So they are aham karta, ahamkaraha. So ahamkaraha represents the represents our ego. So whenever we do some, ego is not just that the English word for ego, which are in a sense being haughty or proud. It's not just that. It is that also, but mainly because it involves thinking of myself as a doer. That is the simple. Aham karta iti manyate. That is the definition of ahankar. Ahankara. I am a doer. This is the sense. This is the meaning of that ahankara. So whenever I am doing something, I am reading a book, then I am a reader. So aham karta, I am a reader. So even though I am just a person, but whatever activity I am doing, I associate myself with that activity and I become the doer of that activity. Right? So and that is how I become a doer. So that ahankar is the main reason why we are stuck in this universe, why we are stuck with our desires, because we think of ourselves as a karta, which we don't notice, but it is surprisingly changing every second. That karta is changing every second, right? So that karta is the ahankara.
So, karta is the
To know yourself as a karta, because Atma has no action. The Atma is not akarta. So once I understand myself as akarta, then I will see the instruments doing the activities, being prompted or energized by the devtas and acting on the sense objects of the world. I am nowhere in between. I am not doing anything. All the actions are happening by this threefold interaction between the devta, between the sense organ or the sense object. So whatever knowledge we saw also earlier includes the what we call this threefold action, triputi, right? So that represents the knower, known, and the instrument. So the knower is the conscious entity, known is the object that is being known, and the instrument is the connecting part, the one that helps in that perception, right? So these three will always be there. And as we saw, there has to be a common source for this perception to occur. So in the case of say Chakshu, you have the Surya Devta. Without light, you cannot perceive, and there has to be the sense object. So together, these two will do the act of perception, right? So then finally the Chintan Kartri Chittam. So Chittam represents the knowledge faculty, the remembering faculty. So this faculty is actually the one that is slightly active when we go into deep sleep also. So when we go into deep sleep, then what is happening? Consciousness is there, of course, all the time, right? But no experience is happening, no objects are being perceived, but what is being perceived is nothingness by the consciousness. So where is that consciousness going to store that impression? On the chitta. So the chitta is momentarily made available to register all of those impressions. Of course, the what is the other thing that is going on in deep sleep? It's the prana shakti. Prana is always moving there. That is why we are alive and we wake in the morning also. And of course, our sankalpa for the next activity, that is what wakes up, right? If there is no sankalpa, we won't wake. And so this Chintan Kartri Chittam, all the Chintan, all the thoughts that I have to enact or do, or that I have to make a decision on, they all represent inputs from my Chittam. There will be some impression on my Chitta. It represents all the samskaras, all the impressions that are stored in my lifetime. And of those impressions, whenever there is any contact, they are rejuvenated or revived. And so like I meet someone I know, then my chitta will bring back from deep within me the memory. Sometimes I will not recognize that person. Sometimes I will have to strain to recognize that person. So that will depend on, firstly, the time that has passed when I last met that person, right? Otherwise, the memory will go buried deep down over layers of other memories. And then, secondly, how strong was my interaction with that person earlier. So, if I have so many good memories or even bad memories, in fact, bad memories tend to get awakened very fast. So, whatever be the intensity of a memory, that also will be a factor in bringing it to the top, where whenever we interact with someone, or not just a person, even a place, an object, anything. It can be anything. So this Chintan Kartri Chittam represent that. So again, just as we saw earlier, they all have their devtas, the conscious entity behind that. So Manaso Devta Chandrama. So Manaso Devta Chandramaha. So Chandrama represents the reflected light, right? So, what is the sun? Sun gives the direct light. So, mind is reflecting the light of consciousness, right? Mind is reflecting the light of consciousness onto the different sense of objects, and that is how the perception is happening. So, that is why Chandrama is the Devta of the mind. It represents the Chandrama represents the Devta of the mind. It represents the reflecting power, the power of reflecting the light or reflecting the consciousness. So Manasaha Devta Chandrama. And then Buddhehe Brahma. So Brahma ji represents the creative power, the one who creates the universes, the one who has the four Vedas in his hand. What are the four Vedas? They represent all the knowledge of the universe, right? So one who can manifest the knowledge of the Vedas, the one who has the faculty of buddhi. So within the buddhi, so when our buddhi, our intellect is connected to that universal power, connected to that universal knowledge, then the knowledge of the Vedas is available for us, right? So therefore that the Brahmaji is the one who is the holder of the knowledge of the four Vedas. So he needs that knowledge to create the worlds, to create the different aspects, the different Prajapatis first he will create, the Rishis he will create, and then from the Rishis, so Rishi represents the different bhavas, Prajapati represents the actual physical entities that are going to be produced, right? And then finally uh, the worlds are created where people can actually inhabit them. So we say there are so many planets and so many unlimited worlds, but right now, whatever planet we are living on, for us, it is the center of the universe. So for us, it becomes the center for perceiving all the universes around us. So that Brahmaji is the one who is creating all these worlds. So he is the devta of the buddhi. Then ahankarasya rudra. So rudra, Rodra roop. the angry one, the one who destroys everything, the one who finishes everything whenever something wrong is happening in the universe. So that is why Rudra represents Ahankar. Why? Because we also destroy everything when we are in a state of Ahankar. Whenever our ego takes over, I think of myself as the doer, and then because I am the doer, I create this whole universe of thoughts and forms. I create this whole universe filled of my sankalpa and my kartritvam, filled of the sense of I am the doer of this and that. Because of our ahankar only, maximum number of fights or quarrels occur. Now you tell someone that you cannot do this, or you're not fit, or you're not capable, or you're not intelligent, and that person will become your enemy for a lifetime, right? Even for a small thing, you just contradict someone, that person will feel offended. That is why imparting knowledge is one of the toughest things in the world. Whenever you impart knowledge, the person in front of you has to be humble. But if that ego is there, then the person will always be looking to contradict the teacher or contradict the person or even the text from which he's studying. That is how bad this ahankar is. It is the biggest obstruction to our learning. When we give this up, the whole world of knowledge is available. That is why the surrender to the Devta, surrender to the highest power involves giving up this ahankar. The moment we give up this ahankar, then from this small I, this small jiva, I become the infinite I. When I become the infinite I, who can deny me? Who can deny me the knowledge of the universes? Nothing can deny me. I am open, my mind is open, I am not confining myself to this mind and intellect. And once I leave that confinement, I become the universe. The whole knowledge of the universe becomes available for me. Of course, whatever is applicable to what current needs that I have. Yeah, because ultimately, right now, I'm functioning through the body. हम तो फंस गए ना we have been come into this world. So whenever we are here, then we have to use this knowledge to interact best with. Right? So the Lord has given us this knowledge to, to improve our journey through this universe. And then finally we have Chittasya Vasudeva. So Vasudev, Vishnu, he represents the Devta of the Chitta because this Chitta is the one that is holding all the things. So this is through which how everything is maintained. He is the deity for maintaining the universe, the maintaining power. And also because Vishnu Vasudev is the deity of this Chittam also because he represents Vasati Sarvasmin Iti Vasudev, the one that resides in everything. So he is also the Antaryami, the consciousness within our hearts, within each of our hearts, that is witnessing everything. That is telling us, the one that is telling us. That is why whenever when you do something wrong, your parents will tell you you cannot hide because your mind is knowing. तुम्हें तो पता है ना अंदर से. You are knowing that you have done something wrong, right? So that represents. Some people call it. What is the name for that? What do you call it? मैं खुद उसको देख रहा हूँ तो my conscience. My conscience is not the consciousness, conscience. The conscience is always watching. So that represents that Vasudev only, the inner Antaryami, who is seeing every action. So whenever we do something wrong, there is someone who knows. It is that Antaryami. So because all the information of everything that we have done in our lifetimes is stored in that Chitta. So एतेषां पंचतत्वानां मध्ये आकाशस्य राजसांशात् त्वग् इंद्रियम संभूतम. So we have completed the sattvic aspect now. Right? Sattvic aspect is done. So from this sattvic aspect, what have we seen? The 5 jnanendriya, the 5 knowledge giving sense organs are born. And then 4 inner instruments. So 5 plus 4, 9 are born out of here. Nine are born from the sattvic part of the 5 elements, right? So these 9 represent the cumulative aspects of the sattvic part of the creation. So now we are going into the Rajasic aspect. So what does Rajasic? Rajas represents the red color. Red represents activity. So just like blood, my blood boils. So that represents being very active, angry, and so on. So this Rajasic aspect is going to uh, create all the activity-based aspects of the universe. So what are these activity-based aspects? Etesham पंचतत्वानां मध्ये आकाशस्य राजसांशात् त्वक् इंद्रिय संभूतम. So there is an error here. Sorry, there's maybe a printing mistake. So it has to be vak indriya. So tvacha is the organ of touch. So this is not born from the Raja Sanshad. So it has to be the Tvak Indriya Sambhutam. You may correct in if you have this aspect, or I think in my other book it probably is correct. Hmm? Vag Indriya.
I say bug.
हाँ, इसमें ठीक है ना तो. So there is a mistake made in this text. Right? So from this, from the five elements, from the Rasic aspect of space, this Vag Indriya, the power of speech is born. So that is why we call this speech fiery speech, right? So it is born. It is born from that aspect. Vani, yeah, from Vani, we do a lot of. So we can also similarly make this connection with the other aspect from Akash. The Sattvic aspect was born. What was born? Sound. And then sound is created to this Vag Indriya. So Vag, Pani, Pad, Payu, Upastaha, the five karmendriyas are there. So Vag represents the speech. So speech can be heard by what? The ear. Right? So this karmendriya is connected to this Jnanendriya. Right? From the space is born this Vag Indriya, the speech, and from space again is born uh, the hearing power, right? The Shrotra Indriya. So all that is how these are all connected. And then from this Tvak Indriya, we do all the activities of speaking, whatever we have visualized in the mind, it is expressed through speech. And then finally, we do that action through our hands. So that is how the cycle goes on. So the next step is Vayoho Rajasanshat Pani Indriya Samputam. So whenever we have spoken something, whenever we have thought about something, expressed something, then we need our hands to do the activity itself, right? So this Vayu ke Rajasan se Pani Indriya, the grasping power. So from Vayu, the grasping power is born, right? So, so can we make the connection how this grasping power is connected to twacha? Because most of our touch we do through the hand. Most of our touch we do through our hand. So Vayu, from the Rajas Anshat of Vayu, the Pani Indriya, Sambutam, the grasping power is born. So, so these are all representing the moving aspect, the activity aspects, right? That is why Rajas Ansha is giving birth to this. So everything is connected in a very smooth way. And then Vannehe, Rajas Anshat, Pad Indriya, Samputam, right? So from Vannihi, from fire, from its Rajas Anshat, this Pad Indriya, the power of movement, right? This power of movement is born. So when we do any kind of activity, whenever we move from any place to place, then we need to use our feet. So from this comes the aspect. But let us say if someone is using his hands to walk, then there also you are using your padindriya only, right? Because the power is being talked about, not the place through which it is being expressed. Of course, we do most of our motions through our feet only. So this is just a secondary aspect. So from this, from the Agni, from Vannihi, from its Raja Sanshat, the Pad Indriya has been born. The power of locomotion is born. Correct. And of course, we know that from here Chakshu is born, from the Sattvic Ansh of Vani, from the Sattvic Ansh of fire, the Chakshu Indriya is born. So that is why we have to look where we go, right? Without my eyes, I will keep stumbling, right? So some of us like are very absent-minded, like me. So maybe whenever we are walking, we stumble a bit because we are like looking somewhere else and not looking at the ground, and so we stumble. So mostly when we know the terrain, we have, or we know this road is smooth, we don't need to look. But whenever we are at on any uncertain terrain, then we need to look where we. So this Pad Indriya, it helps us in the fact in the activity of movement. The next is Jalasya Rajasanshat Upastha Indriya Sambhutam. Right? So Jalasya, from this water, the water aspect, the Rajas aspect of water, Upastha Indriya. So Upastha represents the excretory aspect, the anus is formed, right? And then finally the Prithivyam, Rajasanshat, Buddha Indriya, Sambhutam. So from the Rajas aspect of earth, the genitals are formed. So these all represent activity aspects, right? So Upastha represents the movement of food when it's being removed, and then Buddha represents the genitals. So that also represents an activity. So now we have done the individual elements from this tamasic part, from the rasic part. Each of this, they are born. All these are born. The five karmendriyas, right? So now earlier we had this samashti also from the total. So from what is born from the total? Ete sham samashti rajasansha panch pranaha samputa. So there we had four, here we have five, right? From the five pranas. But why again the same aspect will apply here? It is a samashti ansh. So actually the organ is one only. By name of function, by the function, it is given different names. So just like the manaha or the antakaran is one instrument only, by according to its function, whether it is memory, whether it is sankalp vikalp, whether it is nischay atmika, or whether it is aham karta, all of these, the same mind is given different, four different names. Similarly, there is one pran shakti only. There is one pran shakti only. But whatever activity he is doing, by that we give the different name. So what are the five pranas? So first is prana, the breathing power, this breathing respiratory system, right? The one that controls the breath. Then apan, the lower breath, the one that is going down, the one that is doing the job of excretion, right? So same vayu, same prana, it is doing that other function, the waste removal, then it's apan. Then Dhyan, Udan, Saman. So all of these represent all those different aspects, right? So the Samana, the digestive system, the Vyana, the circulatory system, and the Udana, the sudden removal system, what we call sneezing and all that. So all of these, or also we saw when the life breath is leaving the body, that is also a function of Udana. So all these five pranas are just names or different functional what we call representations of that one single prana. That is why the samashti rajas ansh, the total rajasic ansh, comes together to produce the five pranas. Give them five different names. So now, finally, what is left? We have the sattvic part, we have the rajasic part. Now, finally, is the tamasic part. So, what is the tamasic part? We have to understand. Tamasic part represents the inertial aspect. So this inertia represents that the five elements are going to be finally born into a gross form. A gross form from where all the visible worlds can be seen, right? So now we have seen earlier that the elements were in a very subtle state. We call them tanmatras, tanmatra state. So the five elements in the very subtle state, the five subtle elements, they are called tanmatras. Then they undergo a process by which they can be perceived. So that process is called Panchikaranam. So एतेषां एतेषां पञ्चमहाभूतानां तामसांशस्वरूपम् एकमेकं भूतं द्विधा विभज्य एकमेकम् अर्धपृथक् व्यवस्थाप्य परमपरम् अर्धं चतुर्था विभज्य स्वार्धमन्येषु अर्धेषु स्वभागचतुष्टय संयोजनं कार्यं तदा पञ्चीकरणं भवति. I'll need a couple of minutes extra to finish this. So let me just go through with this. The Panchikaran is described here in Sanskrit terms. So it will be a bit difficult for you to visualize. So we'll take a visual aspect here. So this is the Panchikaran. So what is the first part of that? All of the five elements, they will first be split into two parts each, right? So first of all, etesham panchamahabhutanam tamas ansha swarupam. So the five elements from their tamas ansha are born these five gross elements. So what is how are they grossified? Ekam ekam bhutam dvidha vibhajya. That is the first part. Ekam ekam bhutam dvidha vibhajya. So all of these five elements, they will be split into halves, two halves. So you can look at them. There is the lower half and the upper half. Upper half is further subdivided. We'll go to that in the next step. So first of all, space will be divided into two halves. One half is pure space. Other half we are keeping separate for now. Then again, air is born into divided into two parts, lower half, upper half, and so on. So from all of these, then there is a further subdivision. What is the further subdivision? So I hope you guys have the text somewhere in front of you. So I want to keep this image in front. So what is the next part? Ekam ekam ardham एकमेकम अर्धम पृथक व्यवस्थाप्य param aparam ardham chaturtha vibhajya. So one half is kept separately. It is left undisturbed. The ekam ekam ardham vyavasthapya. It is separately situated. No meddling is going to be done with that. And what about the other half? Aparam ardham chaturdha vibhajya. So the upper part is divided into four. So this space will be divided into two parts. The upper part will be divided again into four parts. So if you take the whole, then these are all 1/8 of that. So half and 1/4 of half is 1/8, right? So 1/8 is divided into another four parts, right? So now we have every element is similarly divided into, you can say, five parts. One is half. The other half is divided further into another four parts. So you can represent by a circle or a square, draw a line in the middle, and the upper part you can divide again into four parts. So in this way, everyone is divided: space, air, fire, water, earth, into five parts each. One is the bigger part, other are the smaller parts. What is next after that? After Chaturtha Vibhajya, Swa Ardham Aneshu Ardheshu, Swabhag Chatushtaya Sanyojanam. So everyone keeps their lower half intact, and the remaining four parts, they will go to the remaining four elements. So what is sound going to do? It will contribute 1/8 of its part into all the remaining four. So 1/8 of sound will go to air, 1/8 will go into fire, 1/8 into water, 1/8 into earth. Similarly, for air also, of the 1/8 parts, 1/8 will go into space, 1/8 will go into fire, 1/8 go into water, 1/8 into earth. So in this way, when this redistribution is done, this is the process of Panchikaran, the five-fold process, the five elements being divided into five parts and then further recombined. So what we are having is, if you look at sound, then it will have, sound will have half of sound, pure sound, and 1/8 of air, fire, water, and earth. Similarly, air will have half of air and 1/8 each of space, fire, water, earth. Same way with fire, half of fire and 1/8 each of space, air, water, and earth. And then water again, one half water, one eighth each of the remaining four. And same way for earth. So in this way, this recombined elements are born, and thus you can visualize as one element splitting into these five parts, or you can also imagine like in a way like five parts of air are taken, and then out of that one part is combining with four parts of the others. Right. So in this way, a combined or composite elements are produced. These are the visible elements that we see in the universe. And from this, all the universes, all the worlds, all the visible planets and so on, they are produced. And of course, at the individual level, our body is produced. Right. So this body is the abode for everything. So without this body, there cannot be the functioning of ourselves as an entity, because without the body, every one of us what we are bhoot, we are pret, we are like we are a jiva without a body, right? So that is called in technical language pret. So that represents uh, the bodiless part of the individual composition. Right. So this, when Panchikaran is done, then only the complete individual is materialized. Right. The abode is provided. Into that enters the Sukshma Shariram, and in the Sukshma Shariram then forms the all the different aspects of our being, and then of course finally the causal body, the Karan Sharir, is the reasoning behind why we are all brought here into this world. So when we look at the final, tada panchikaranam bhavati. In this way, this panchikaran has been done. So etebhya panchikrita panchamahabhutebhya sthula shariram bhavati. So these five gross elements, these five grossified elements, they combine together to bring out the stool sharira. Right. So I think time is a bit over now. So we'll wind up for today. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purna Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Hari